Hey everyone, it's Dr. Rick, founder of Herbal 411, and I'm going to be doing an unboxing on Berberine. Now, I did do a video on Berberine in the past. This was before all the GLP-1s came out, like Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Rybelsus, and this used to be popular. It still should be popular because it's essentially a substitute for metformin. Metformin is longevity medicine that also is useful for making you insulin sensitive, or reversing hemoglobin A1C that's high, meaning diabetes. So if you have diabetes, if you have prediabetes, if you have a little elevation in your glucose levels, or if you just have excessive amounts of craving and you can't get that extra 20 pounds off, this might be a good supplement to have. Now, if you check out the video I did before, which I'll put in the link or the comments section, the video I did before, I talked about Berberine as being very useful instead of metformin. I have patients that are just on the cusp of being called pre-diabetic. I kind of put everybody into the same category. Pre-diabetes or diabetes, regardless, you're at risk because your metabolism is off. So if your glucose is elevated, if your fasting glucose is elevated, if your hemoglobin A1C was elevated, or your 2-hour glucose tolerance test is high, all these things point to diabetes or insulin resistance. And it's important to reverse that as soon as you find out that you're in that category, because if you let it continue, it accelerates your entry into high blood pressure, into elevated lipids, into cardiovascular disease or stroke. I would also argue that it increases your chances for cancer and neurodegenerative disorders. So it's important to know what to do or implement, and Berberine is a very good supplement to have. The only problem I found is if you go to Consumer Labs, which I go to, that's a third-party watchdog, they take vitamins off the shelf in your local vitamin store, and they get the batches and they submit them for testing. And they buy them independently. They don't make a contract with a supplement company, because that would be biased. So they buy them individually, they test, and they see if what's on the label is in the capsule. And they have done a great job with the red yeast rices. So there's about 7 red yeast rice companies they evaluated. There's more than that on the shelf if you go to your average vitamin shop, Fruitful Yield or Whole Foods. But they pulled 7, or maybe 8, I believe. And 6 of them had no product or toxic levels of citrulline. That's with red yeast rice. They have also evaluated Berberine, but I was just bringing up the red yeast rice because that's terrible. If you go out there, the average consumer, and you say, buy a bottle that is a Joe Schmo company that you like the label and don't know about them, just like the label, and then it happens to have no product. Well, you can have a placebo effect in that. Maybe that'll be helpful. But if it has no product, that's one thing. If it has no product and toxic levels of another compound, that's dangerous, especially if you're relying on it to avoid disease like heart attack or full-blown diabetes and kidney failure. So it would be very important for you as patients to be consumers, very smart consumers. It's also important for doctors to know what they're talking about when they make recommendations. So I'm at risk. If I give you the wrong recommendation and you die, I can be at fault. So it's important to know what are the best suggestions for nutraceuticals. So nutraceuticals are vitamins for all intents and purposes. Pharmaceuticals are prescription drugs. The pharmaceutical industry is scrutinized by the FDA, so they have to keep their product to certain specs. Now, the nutraceuticals aren't as scrutinized by the FDA, so that's why you'll see it's like the Wild West. Some companies will produce crap. Some companies will be out of China and have heavy metals. Or India, no offense to India, but unfortunately third world countries with menial labor or cheap labor will produce inferior products compared to the US and Europe. So it's important to know how to make choices on the supplements that you use, how to pick the supplements for the disease process you're trying to reverse, and also how to look at the data. So this company called Vitality Pro, I found it after a couple searches online because I couldn't find any more Berberine. The Berberine they liked, that was number 1 with Consumer Lab, was knocked down because they didn't have a couple of batches that corresponded to the ingredients on the label. And that says there's a problem with that product. Now there's a couple of different ones, I didn't like them, so I went online and I found Vitality Pro. It's out of the UK. And I came across it and I thought, oh, okay, that is kind of cool. I was looking mostly for TMG. This is another supplement I just did a video on. Very good for lowering homocysteine levels, also helping with lowering body temperature at night, at least as far as hypothalamus, and even the benefits of betaine. Anyway, I got 2 for 1 because I saw that they also had berberine. And I thought, okay, why would I want to buy any products out of a company from the UK? They might not be obliged to follow the same rules as the FDA. However, this is, if you go to their website, number one, they talk about their products that they sell and the purity. But here is something that's really cool. So this is Certified Laboratories out of California. And I called these guys and I looked up their website. They're actually an independent party that tests product. You can send your product to them to evaluate truly what's on the label, and they actually look at the active ingredient in addition to arsenic and other adulterants. So that's, you can hopefully see that. And this is one of the publications they put on their website for trimethylglycine. So they put the batch number and the test results, and they say pure or no pure. Now, if that's truly from Certified Laboratories. I did call them, and there was a customer service person that answered the telephone and said they were independent, they were out of California, pretty decent. Before, I used to call some telephone numbers on vitamin companies and it wouldn't even be a real telephone number. Nowadays, they could be getting fancy and maybe there's a offshore telephone number that all these numbers get routed to, but they had this, this is the berberine one. So I printed this up from the internet, at least the website that they had. And again, I called the certified labs in California to see if they truly have Vitality Pro, who they test, and they truly did. So there's some truth to this document. And the document says that the Vitality Pro guys, with regards to berberine and trimethylglycine, do have, in the batches that they were tested, they do have the proper, whatever's on the label is truly in the capsule. So again, you can go to Consumer Lab and subscribe to them and then follow their evaluations. They update them about every 1 to 2 years, I believe, as far as the batches that they pull off of the shelves. And they also go through the testing process of what they did with each batch. And then what's nice with Consumer Lab is they also give suggestions on what the active ingredient does, what you can expect if you use it for your disease process. And then they actually talk about all of the products that they tested. So with regards to Vitality Pro and their batch test results, at least that's all you get with this one, is how their batch that they sent in was tested and the results of the test. I guess if you were a company, a nutraceutical, you can certainly send them what you want. It has to be a sealed container, but you can send them your best and make sure it's really accurate and see if you can get a certificate of accuracy. If a company goes out and does that and then goes back to producing crap, that would be unfair. But I don't know if anybody would go to that extreme. So if they do, then your disease process won't change. But bottom line is, if you get berberine from Vitality Pro, and I think because it comes from the UK, they do charge you for DHL shipping, international shipping. And if you subscribe to 3 months at a time, which you probably will have to, because if you're a diabetic now, there's no way, unless you're aggressive, like Ozempic aggressive or Wegovy aggressive or Mounjaro aggressive, there's no way you'll lose enough weight to effectively change your hemoglobin A1C. It takes 3 months to do that. So at the least, you're going to be on this medicine or this supplement for 3 months, in addition to lifestyle changes. And that's what I do with integrative medicine, as I try to implement medications when things are dangerous, or supplements when things are not so dangerous and we have our time, or exercise and food has medicine when we have a lot of time. But that fallacy of food is medicine. Food is medicine in a way, but you also have to be obliged to eating that medicine out of your food properly every single day. And if you only eat 1 meal a day because you want to lose 20 pounds in 3 months, congratulations, but say goodbye to your muscle and your protein loss too, because that's going to go in addition to fat. That's the typical Ozempic face. They lost 30 pounds, but they also look like they have cancer, which is not good. But I guess to move the needle, it'd be helpful. Regardless, In the use of berberine, I think that this is going to be a great boon. I subscribed to 3 months at a time, and I said I wanted 1 bottle every 3 months, which is not that bad. This came out to about $40, which is a little high, but it's 120 capsules at 500 milligrams each. And my suggestion for metformin or berberine is 500 milligrams twice a day. The active ingredient will usually hang out in the bloodstream for about 6 to, at the most, 8 hours. Now, if you take one in the morning and you take one in the evening, it should overlap during your waking hours to help you with lowering your glucose level in your bloodstream. Now, this doesn't mean if you take this, you can have sugar and snacks and sugary pop. No, you still have to make those changes. And if you don't know what to do with regards to those changes, you get a registered dietitian or you talk to your doctor. I'm very good with my nutrition, at least the 30,000 foot view of nutrition changes. I usually will deploy a registered dietitian, not your average nutritionist, because that's totally different. A registered dietitian that has gone through certification and perhaps has master's level training would be important to give you plate to plate variability. I can help you with week to week variability. And sometimes that's all that's necessary. I think a lot of people will go online and find the shortcuts to making their disease changes. The question is, if you get the success with the shortcut, can you also get the long cut to maintain the change that you have already instigated? So it's important to use pure product. And I'm going to give this a try, and over the next 3 months, I'll see if I can bump down my hemoglobin A1C, which is, I think, pretty decent anyway. If you can get your hemoglobin A1C to less than 5, I think that's excellent. Mine was 4 point something, and then it bumped up when I did basal metabolic rate change about end of last summer, and it didn't work out. I tried to push it and change it, but bottom line is I couldn't change my BMR. So, and then I ended up with extra 5 pounds, which doesn't sound like the end of the world, but to somebody that tries to live within a very small wiggle room, it's kind of defeating. Anyway, I'm working on it just like all my patients are working on it. And the objective is always to push and pull, apply change, and then see if it effectively changes. If it doesn't change, then you apply another change. But we're always in the challenge of taking on more disease or getting through a hurdle of family sickness. So it's important to attempt, and if you have that speed bump that occurs, okay, put everything on hold, get through the challenge that you're getting through, and then reapply it. And don't gain too much weight or don't go too far off the reservation with regards to your lifestyle change while you're taking care of your speed bump issue. So bottom line is that I think Vitality Pro is potentially a very good company, and especially if they have, check out their website. They have several different products, but they have certificates of authenticity to all the products that they sell. And they're not shy. They put them available for you to click on and see. So I just downloaded this, and then I called up company, and they confirmed that Vitality Pro is one of the supplements that are tested. Then they have a wide variety that they can test, but they have no allegiance, and you can't be biased with a third-party tester. So if you do have a metabolic issue, a prediabetes issue, insulin-resistant issue, and the only way to find out if you're insulin-resistant is not with a hemoglobin A1C, not with a random glucose, you actually have to get a fasting morning insulin level, which I suggest for everybody. Because even if you have a normal hemoglobin A1C, that's an average 3-month glucose level, that's way below 5.7, you could still be insulin resistant, and you will never know. And I feel that insulin resistance is the first step, and then prediabetes is the second step, and then full-blown diabetes is the third step. Full-blown diabetes with insulin dependence is the last step, but I believe you can still reverse that back to where you started, but it takes a little bit of change and a little bit of planning. I did sign up to be a distributor, which technically I can make benefit, but I really only sell to my patients, and I tell my patients that are in my practice exactly what I pay for the supplement. The only reason I really become a distributor so I can get a discount. And my patients get a discount too. That's the way I roll. So hopefully this gives you a couple of ideas. Check out your certifying lab or third-party certifier. If you haven't done any berberine reading, please see the previous video I did on berberine. Or if you are interested in trimethylglycine, which is great for sleep, in addition to anabolic signal, check out that video. I'll put them both down below. Please consider subscribing. I do these unboxings often. just to help my patients and the YouTube community that follows me on making lifestyle changes that are appropriate for them. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section down below. Otherwise, maybe I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.